Joining me, the top two members on the House Intelligence Committee, Chairman Mike Rogers and Ranking Member Dutch Ruppersberger. Gentlemen, always a pleasure to have the two of you here.
Thanks.
I want to start with Afghan elections because they took place yesterday, and we may get some preliminary results here. We've had quite an investment in human life and in money from the U.S. Treasury in Afghanistan. As we move forward, so far we don't have an agreement on the use of forces, but as we move forward, the U.S. in Afghanistan, what are your biggest fears?
Well, my biggest fear is we walk away without a bilateral security agreement. You know, we do not need another safe haven in the world. Some 26 countries with ungoverned space are very attractive to al-Qaeda and its affiliates. It's very important we get a BSA so we can get our bases pre-planned so that we can continue to push back on extremists operating in Afghanistan.
So he worries, sounds like that Afghanistan will once again become a terrorist haven if the U.S. pulls out.
Yeah, we need to have our military consultants there. We've trained their military and their police force, and the fact that so many people showed up in this election showed that the people of Afghanistan do not want the Taliban, and they stood up and risked their lives to vote, and that's very positive. Also, another positive thing, over 300 women filed for office in Afghanistan. That never would have happened with the Taliban there.
It is a changed country. You just don't want to walk backwards on some of
What we don't want to do is slide backwards, and that's, I think, both of our concern is that we've made investment. We are pushing out the boundaries of their own self-rule. It's not going to happen overnight. This election in and of itself doesn't do that. A lot of positive signs in this election, but we can't just turn and walk away and allow it to devolve back into what it was before.
And the issue is Karzai. And, you know, you never know where he's going to be. Mike and I both have met with him on numerous occasions. And we don't want to happen what's happened in Iraq right now. Now it's more of a Sunni Shia issue. But they have people trained on both sides that know how to use roadside bombs and that type thing. So it's an issue.
Let me move you on to another big sort of blockbuster story that happened this week, and that is the beginning, perhaps, of a road where parts of a Senate Intelligence Committee report on the CIA program post 9/11 on prisoner interrogation. Dianne Feinstein said about this report, the results were shocking. The report exposes brutality that stands in stark contrast to our values as a nation. It chronicles a stain on our history that must never be allowed to happen again. Do you agree with all of that, part of it, any of it?
I have a tremendous amount of respect for Dianne Feinstein. We work very closely together on a lot of national security issues. This report, I just have some differences of opinion. The methodology of the report, you can't spend that much time and not interview one person involved in the program and come to the right conclusion. And so I worry a little bit about its timing of release. Remember, we haven't done this since 2004. The program went away in 2006 completely. And we have real problems today. Remember, the Russian intelligence services are cutting people's ears off and putting knives at 85-year-old men's throat to get them in line in places around the world. That's where we need our intelligence services to focus.
Sure, but can the CIA, if it was as brutal, they also said that the CIA, this report apparently says that the CIA misled you all about the nature of this program, that it was far more brutal than lawmakers were led to believe who have oversight.
Well, in the first place, we can't have any of the agencies that we oversee, whether CIA, NSA, mislead us. That's the first thing. The type of the type of information that is coming in on how that we take prisoners and what we do to them. If there are certain things that have occurred where it's torture involved, that's not who we are as a country. But the most important thing that we need to look at the past, the history, and make sure we don't make the same mistakes in the future. And that's what we're really doing here. And I do also respect Dianne Feinstein. She's a great American. She stands strong for what she believes in. But let's get the facts. The most important thing, the Attorney General right now has the case to look at these allegations that are out there. Let's get the facts, and then we can make decisions.
Nancy Pelosi, the leader of your party, Congressman Ruppersberger, I asked her about this report and the things that are in it, and she has said, look, this goes to higher-ups here. They're responsible for this. And I said, who is that? And she said, Dick Cheney. Do you agree with that?
I'm going to have to wait for the facts. When Cheney was there, Cheney and Rumsfeld, they were They did some things that I might not agree with, but I think in order to criticize, I've got to wait for the facts.
It worries me about that more than anything, any other statement, is that politicizes this in a way that I think is horribly counterproductive and likely to lead people to the wrong conclusion. There is a counter report that I think people need to read. This report is, I forget, thousands of pages. We've gone through it, and they have made assumptions and leapt to conclusions that cannot be substantiated. This is not the Holy Grail. It doesn't answer all the questions. And again, why now into an election year would you bring this up and then to say, well, this is all about Dick Cheney, I think is a disservice. Clearly, when you like that, it becomes highly charged politically.
But you think the release of the report is, I mean, they want it released. Do you think that that is political?
Well, I think, again, if you're going to release parts of the report that you'd like to release, then maybe the other counter-argument, there is another counter-argument out there on these facts. And so you'll only get one side of the facts to argue from, and I think that's unfortunate. And again, remember, this program is gone. There was oversight, debate, discussion, votes, all kinds of efforts back in 2006 when George W. Bush got up and said, all right, we're going to move to a different direction. Here's how we're going. And now we're going to, when the agency is challenged from al-Qaeda's resurgence around the world to the Russian intelligence service, remember, we have more KGB agents in the United States today, Russian intelligence agents, that's the old Cold War moniker for them, than we had at the height of the Cold War. More Chinese intelligence collectors in the United States by a number that is just breathtakingly nerve-wracking for the United States. That's where we need our intelligence services focused. This is a debate we've had. It's gone. It's a part of our history that we're probably going to talk about for years, but we need to move forward. They need to focus on the challenges that face the United States today.
Sure. I guess some people would argue that there also should be some accountability, but let me move you on, because in my...
The one issue, though, is transparency. And we can't give sources and methods, which hurts us with our enemies. But the more that we can be transparent, the more I think the American public will realize that the intelligence community is there to protect them and help them. And that's the issue. That's the issue that we have with NSA also.
In my last couple of minutes I have with you, do you think the American public will be any easier knowing that their phone metadata, that is what number calls what number and for how long, will be stored under the president's proposal, and you all need to put legislation around it, will be stored with the phone company as opposed to with the federal government? Isn't the point that too much data is being collected?
Well, remember, that happens already and was happening well before this program got started. That's how they bill. These are really phone company billing records. This isn't some special collection by the phone companies. They collect it as a natural course of their billing cycles for phone numbers.
But do they want to be a part of this, really?
Well, they have to collect. They have to keep it anyway by the FCC rules, at least 18 months. And so what happens now is, and you know, Dutch and I have gone round and round and tried to find the right place. Remember, there was nothing found wrong or unconstitutional with the other program, but clearly people didn't have confidence in it with the NSA locking it away. So what we did is said, listen, it's already there. Let's try to find a way. Do you lose a little bit of capability? Yes. But can you find a way so that the court is involved in the transaction of getting the metadata? Remember, not even names and addresses, no names and addresses, so that we can find a terrorist from overseas calling into the United States. And so that part of the debate seems to get lost, and this is incredibly important as we move forward.
You've got to stop. It's an important issue. We're doing away with metadata, and we have court review, and I think he seeks the balance to protect our country and yet make sure people feel secure their constitutional rights are not being violated.
Congressman Rupert Berger, Congressman Rogers, thank you both so much. We are